Hi, welcome to the Q. My name is Gummi, and today's guest we have Sammy the House
Hi.
and Erica Contreras.
Hi.
I want to welcome Erica to the show. She had a really good idea the other day, and she was watching the Q, and she's like, I want to talk about the 80s and the 90s. And I'm like, yes, we should totally embarrass ourselves.
Totally.
Totally.
For sure.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. Growing up 80s and 90s and maybe the differences now. Erica, if you don't mind telling us, what were you doing in the 80s? How old were you? What do you remember from the 80s?
So in the 80s, I was in elementary and middle school.
Mm-hmm.
My sister, I have an older sister, and she was a teenager. So I was so lucky to have, my experience, but then listen to my sister's music and, all that great lingo that she had and the way she would dress. It was really, really cool. It's like the 80s.
So you looked up to your sister.
I did, and her fashion was awesome. Totally.
So how much older was your sister than you?
My sister's 5 years older.
Okay, so did she let you hang out?
No, absolutely not.
So that didn't happen. Like back in the 80s, the older siblings did not want to hang out at all, and the parents never made them either. They're like, just leave your big brother alone, leave your big sister alone. I know my sister was 7 years older than me too, and she was, the 80s kid, and I was in elementary as well. So I remember that, they had their own thing.
Boys would ask the girls, do you want to go around?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we would be either excited or disappointed.
That's how you would ask. That's how you would start dating somebody. You'd be like, do you want to go around with me?
I went around with somebody.
Did you
for
go
2
around with
years.
somebody, dude?
It was my first girlfriend.
First love.
Not my first love, but my first girlfriend. It was we met in 5th grade when in Troutman Elementary when it was brand new, right? Well, yeah, I knew her, and we were all in the same class. Then finally, in probably 8th grade, we started kind of hanging out.
This is important to the 80s, right? How did you ask her to go around? Where were you? What was happening? What were you guys doing? Because hanging around.
What was the song that was like of your...
Oh, yeah. Did you guys have a song, bro? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. What was it?
Ain't nothing gonna break my stride.
Ain't nothing gonna hold me down.
Matthew Good. No, we didn't have a song. But we were both in band though. That's how we were. And I don't even remember if I actually did ask her to be my girlfriend or anything. It was just like, hey.
Hey, you guys just kissed once, and it was like, yeah. You started holding hands.
They're going around.
Probably.
They're
Yeah.
going around. Are you guys going around? And you guys would be like, yes.
Hold hands secretly.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So, okay, this might help. What song were you guys performing with the band? Was there were you guys performing like a cool song? You know what their song was, right? You know what their song was, right? Almost Paradise.
Almost Paradise. Oh my God. I'm looking at...
Yeah, I forgot how it goes, but
That's a good soundtrack though. Dude.
Almost Paradise. Y'all gotta look up Almost Paradise.
Footloose,
That was
Footloose.
Gummy's song. Yeah,
With his first boo.
with his first go around. So, how old were you when you finally went out on an 80s date, Gummy?
Probably like 14.
And where did you go on your 80s date?
Probably the mall. That was like
That's
the,
it?
That,
That
was
was-
the go-to place, dude.
Did you go to Carmel Corn and to the
we
UA
had
Theater?
Oh my
we had
God.
Music Land and Orange Julius, Silver Coin, playing video games.
Sal's Pizza.
Did you buy
Sal's
her,
Pizza.
Did you buy her a caramel corn?
I don't even.
The caramel corn, dude. You remember the caramel corn at the mall?
I do. It was delicious and it smelled great.
I remember T-shirts Plus.
T-shirts.
I remember
plus
buying Nolan Ryan T-shirts there.
with
Nolan Ryan.
shout out to Rabbit. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but Rabbit used to be. He used to do the airbrushing there at T-shirts Plus.
Wow.
In the 80s, I remember a movie called Rad. Do you remember Rad?
Rad.
It was about BMX freestyle biking.
Yep, I do.
And I remember that was the first thing that I thought oh, this has got to be love. The BMX bikers, right? Because I was a kid. I was a little bit younger than you guys. So, you and I were probably the same age. But yeah, I thought Open fire on my burning heart.
Were they wearing jams?
No, they were like. There's a part where like they're in like some kind of weird formal thing, and he's all dressed up real nice, and she's wearing a dress, and they're doing BMX tricks.
Oh my God. I don't really remember
and they're
that
like,
movie.
"Do you believe in heaven above?"
Oh my
Oh,
God,
okay, I remember the
love
song. Yeah.
that.
So that song is playing while they're doing BMX tricks, all like gussied
Call
up.
Me an Angel.
Call me an angel.
Send me an angel.
Send me an angel.
Yeah. Send me
Oh
an
my
angel.
God, I
Yeah.
love that song.
Yeah, so
Yes.
that's part of the movie, and I was like, oh my god, rad, dude. Like, because I was all into BMX biking, and like this girl,
Rad.
Yeah.
this girl was a BMX biker, and he was a BMX biker, and they fell in love with tricks.
My favorite 80s movie was Teen Witch.
Look how funky he is.
Teen Witch.
You remember like Top That?
Yeah, dude,
when-
where
do you not
the
remember?
girl's a teen witch, and she's like rapping
I
against.
wanna be the most popular girl.
Super
I
lame.
gotta
These
watch
kids over
that
here are like
movie.
watching us, like, oh my god, these people.
You need
These
to
people
watch
are so
that
sad.
movie. And my other favorite 80s movies, I know nobody asked, but my other favorite movie is Troop Beverly Hills with a bunch of
was that
Girl
80s?
Scouts. Yes, it was 80s.
With Shelley Long?
Yes.
Dude, I remember The Last American Virgin
Oh my God, that was a
Yeah.
great movie. It was very sad.
and the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
It was so sad. The Last American Virgin was so sad.
It was.
I saw it the other day and I was like, what are we watching? I played it for my kids, and then like that one scene with they go over to that lady's house.
Yes.
Oh
the
my god! I
apartment.
was like, yeah, dude. I was like, kids, I'm sorry, we're not supposed to be watching this.
That one unfortunately gets shadowed by Fast Times at Ridgemont High though.
That's a great movie
See,
too.
I've never seen that one in its entirety. I've seen it, bits and pieces, but I've never seen Fast Times
Sean Penn comes out in that
Yeah.
movie.
as a burnout.
Nicolas Cage comes out
Yeah.
in the Judge Reinhold.
Reinhold.
Reinhold
Judge
comes
Reinhold.
out in that movie.
That was a big budget 80s movies. Who else is in
Phoebe
it?
Cates?
Was John Cusack in it?
No.
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 Phoebe
Better Off
Cates?
Dead, though.
Better Off Dead.
Phoebe Cates was there yet.
Phoebe Cates.
Phoebe Cates was a whole sex symbol in that movie.
She was.
But yeah, they had the famous pool scene.
Yeah.
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 Then there was
I think that's the only time I watched the movie. Like I only watched that part.
You gotta watch the whole movie.
I don't
It's
want
pretty good.
all you need is the Phoebe Cates scene,
Well,
and that's
I
it.
guess for you guys.
Yeah, I guess right.
Jennifer Jason Leigh was the other one.
Jennifer
Jennifer
She's the one who
Jason
gets
Leigh.
pregnant, right?
Yes. Single white female.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Is she the one also from that one thing where they get trapped in a grocery store?
No, isn't that?
She was also in Labyrinth.
No,
No.
that is
That's
Jennifer
Connelly.
Connelly.
Oh, Jennifer
Connelly.
Connelly. Oh, yeah. I remember in the 90s, everyone wanted to wear hammer pants, and everyone thought they were like part of a dance crew, and everyone like wanted to battle. Like that was the thing. Like gangs danced.
Well, see, in the 80s, we had, I don't know if you remember this. Remember the movie Beat Street?
Yes.
Okay, so we were all into breakdancing, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then we had those pants as well.
Parachute pants.
The
So there was
parachute pants, yeah.
genie pants back then, right? Oh no, first it was parachute pants, but then in the 90s it became like the MC Hammer, like the genie pants, and like I remember. Do you remember the Houseboys?
The house boy.
The Houseboys.
In Laredo?
The Vivant's Houseboys.
I don't remember the
So
video.
Vivant's had a dance crew, and they were called the Vivant's Houseboys, and they all went to United in San Agustin. You don't remember the Vivant's Houseboys?
No.
That was your era, dude.
I don't remember them.
Yeah, so there was the Vivant's Houseboys, there was TWC, there was Total Chaos. Dude, there was dance crews.
Wow.
And then there
I
was
do remember people dancing.
and then Cigarroa had the NTGs, which stood for Ninja Turtle Gangsters.
No.
I'm not kidding, dude. It was the weird. I was like, why do they call themselves the Ninja Turtle Gangsters?
Ninja Turtle gangsters.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. They would call and TWC stood for Together We Chill. Yeah, dude. Yeah.
That's very 80s.
It was-
first of all,
yeah.
with those little, con sapos.
Yeah.
KZ,
Yeah.
TWC, NTG,
SM.
SM. What was SM?
I can't say that right.
Okay, then please.
Scene. SM. Scene.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll tell you guys after
Yeah.
we're done here.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, dude, there was dance crews.
Dance crews, but there was break dance crews.
Were you in a breakdance crew, Gummi?
No, I remember going to house parties and then having people like watching
Battle.
people there, yeah, like doing their battles and stuff, right? I also remember the commercials, the TV commercials. I always remember like my baloney had a first name,
Oh my God.
right? Like those type. And
Sing it, dude.
And no, and
My
then
baloney has a first name.
we had do you remember the is that Freedom Rock, man?
Yeah, man. Well, turn it up, man. I remember the Freedom Rock commercial.
Oh my God.
I remember those commercials. We also had
And the Kool-Aid Man, what did he say?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
You'd break down
The wall.
walls.
The old lady from Wendy's.
Where's the beef? Yeah,
Where's the
where's the
beef?
beef?
Good times.
And then I remember like the fashion. Like, do you remember the? Well, it's more like 70s, but it also went into the 80s. Like the underoos, like the underwear with the superheroes and stuff like that.
With a matching T-shirt and underwear.
I remember those.
You could wear
I had Wonder Woman.
You had Wonder. You know what I had? I had Dukes of Hazzard underoos.
Dukes of Hazzard.
I had Dukes of Hazzard underoos. It was the greatest thing ever. I would love my Dukes of Hazzard underoos.
I love it.
Then we had the swatches. Remember?
Oh my God.
The watches where you could switch out.
Oh my God, the Esprit sweaters.
Oh.
Those so stupid.
I had a million of those and a million of Swatch watches.
Sorry.
I even had a Swatch phone.
Shut up. You had a Swatch phone.
Swatch phone. It was lime green and clear, and I could hear, and my best friend Moni could hear on the other. What else?
What
else?
freaked you out in the 80s?
Poltergeist.
Poltergeist.
Getting kidnapped in a white van.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
What was that one movie about the little kid that got kidnapped and they made a big deal out?
Adam Walsh.
Was it the Adam
And
thing? It was the
it's
code
true.
Adam.
Yeah. So because of that, Adam Walsh, I was always afraid I was going to get kidnapped somewhere. And every time I saw any color of van, I thought that's it. They're here for me. Like, bye, Mom and Dad.
That was scary.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you brought up bands. Do you remember Midnight Madness?
I loved that movie.
Do you remember Midnight Madness, dude? About the
scavenger hunt.
It was a scavenger
Okay,
hunt.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So speaking of scavenger hunts, I also did some weird adult stuff when I was a kid. So do you remember Bob Clark?
Do I know?
Do you know the name Bob Clark?
I do not.
So there was a radio DJ that worked at FM 98 at the time. I was still a kid. I wasn't working there yet. And his name was Bob Clark. And Bob Clark would do the morning show with Tina Marie. And on the weekends, he had what was called Clark in the Dark. And so at night, on Saturday nights, he would ask for different things. And he would give you prizes.
Oh.
Right? So it was like a scavenger hunt. So like one time, he asked us for like a stuffed Shamu. Right? And he was going to give us SeaWorld tickets or whatever, right? So he's like, someone bring us a stuffed Shamu and I'll give you SeaWorld tickets. And I remember once we showed up with a stuffed Shamu and we were too late. But Bob Clark says, like, everyone showed up to try to win these prizes. But back then it was very different. He goes, guys, we're going to go to a party. And I don't know if this is real or not because I didn't see him. We're going to go to a party at Heatwave's house. And so he took all the listeners, including myself, a little kid, and my sister, who was like barely in high school, to this party at Heatwave's house. Yes, I never saw Heatwave, but we went to someone's house.
And he said it was Heatwave's house.
He said it was Heatwave's house. I don't know if it was
Sure.
Heatwave's house or not, but but there was a lot of adults there, like adults, like maybe a little bit younger than us, and like it was a party, like it was a house party. So yes, there was a scavenger hunt, and then we all showed up at a party afterwards.
So one of the things that I really liked about the 80s was the music. And this is what I mean by that. I mean, obviously, there's a whole bunch of artists that came out. Mm-hmm. But what I like about the 80s was that, MTV came out, right? Mm-hmm. It premiered, and then we had access to like all these types of different, all these different types of music. So in the 80s, we had like punk was kind of already dying out, disco was already dying out, but there were still some songs that were, that leaked into the 80s, right? It spilled over to the 80s. But then we had like really rock pop, like Hall and Oates and Air Supply, like those types of groups, right?
Yacht rock.
But we also had, like harder rock. We had like Ozzy and Van Halen and so forth. But then you had George Strait, 1982. So there was a lot of different types of styles of music that we had access to. I mean, these styles were around, but we didn't know of these. Like if you didn't listen, because the local radio was only going to play a certain.
Yeah.
But now we had access to like all these different types of music, and we had access to like black artists like Michael Jackson and Prince and Billy Ocean.
Yeah, black artists weren't mainstream in the 70s.
And then but we had access to all of this now. We knew of all these artists, and there were more styles that were coming in. Because in the 70s, I think I remember like a lot of one-hit wonders, and a lot of them were like disco-esque, But in the 80s, I mean, yeah, we had one-hit wonders as well, but a lot more groups came out, and then it was tied into like the movies,
Yeah.
So like, for example, like Breakfast Club, we had what's the
Don't you forget
Was it
Simple Minds,
Simple
yeah,
Minds.
Simple Minds. We had like all these soundtracks like Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. They all had like pretty good songs, and that's what I remember, and that's what I really liked about the 80s was that the combination of all these and the access to all these different kinds of artists and styles of music.
I love that. And I agree with you. The 80s had some fabulous music. I mean, you didn't say fabulous, I did, but
fabulous.
it had some fabulous music. And that's, to be honest, I listened to a lot of yacht rock. I listened to a lot of 80s and 90s music. And when people ask me about what's your favorite song happening now, I don't know.
The other day,
whatever's playing on TikTok.
the other day, I mentioned this at karaoke because I did this with a friend of mine, and I pretty much and I believe this is true, even though it's just my own conclusion, that there's no doubt that some of the people that exist today, some of the kids that exist today, are because mom and dad were listening to Air Supply on a Saturday night. I think Air Supply is the reason why people either got back together or made a baby.
I remember traveling with my parents, and we'd go to, like, every year we'd make a vacation list, and we were going to go here. So anyway, I remember traveling to Florida, let's say. And on the way, this is where any 70s song or 80s song reminds me of my parents.
Yeah.
Traveling to these places, we had nothing else to do but listen to the radio and whatever my dad wanted to hear. We couldn't pick.
Yeah.
It was and a lot of ABBA. I can still hear my dad singing, like, the Fernando,
Oh my God.
and a lot of Donna Summer, and Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah.
Magic.
My artists for road trips were George Strait, like you mentioned, George Strait, Lupita D'Alessio. For some odd reason, my mom would always listen to Lupita D'Alessio, and for some odd reason, I just remember hearing Toto Africa.
Oh my God.
All the time.
All the time
back then.
Fleetwood Mac was also
yeah.
huge, and anything that came out in Urban Cowboy.
Yeah.
All that. The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Oh my gosh, the Urban Cowboy soundtrack.
The entire soundtrack. I remember listening to that on the way to wherever we were traveling.
Looking for Love.
In all the
oh my
places.
God.
90s music. So yeah, the 90s music was cool too, because to me the cutoff to music was really like the mid to late 2000s, because in the 80s, we just went over that, right? But in the 90s, we had Nirvana, then Foo Fighters,
Stone Temple Pilots.
Yeah, we had all those rock bands. We still had rock, man. And it was rock, like real rock, right? Now there's no, you can't really say.
There's a couple, but not really.
Yeah, it's kind of died out a little bit, but back then, yes, it was. You still had rock, and then in the early 2000s, you had the 90s also brought like a lot of boy bands, right? Like NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. Then we had like Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera.
Yeah.
And so we had like that pop movement as well. Because I mean, in '90s we had was Eminem '90s, right? Eminem was in
Yeah.
the '90s, and then it went on to the.
It's 'cause
Snoop
everything is just everything.
Dr. Dre, all those were 90s.
Everything's all diluted now.
Yeah.
And I hate to think like, oh, it's because we're old, right? But I don't think it's because we're old. Like there really just isn't a lot of effort put into the music the way it was.
And even now, I mean, if you listen to like, if you go to, I mean, karaoke. You're around karaoke? Like, what are the songs that people pick?
Spanish artists still put a lot of like effort into their music, right?
Yeah,
Like Mexican artists do, but not American music for some odd reason.
It's just kind of like recycled stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So
I agree with you.
so to finish off the show, let's finish off the show. We all agree that the 80s and 90s were pretty fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they were pretty great, and they were some of the last best decades that we ever had.
Right.
So the question to you, Miss Erica, how do we get back to that?
How do you get back to?
What would you do to get back to that? To the cool things that we did, to the cool parties, to the cool going out, to the cool music. How do we get back to that?
Take away everyone's cell phones for one.
Oh man. Okay.
No, but
I'm not. Look, I honestly think that
I
cell
think-
phones distracted us.
I do too. And I just think that every generation has something different. So, you know, the 70s was different, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, and so on. So, unfortunately, kids these days will never know what it was like to be in the 80s and the 90s. And that's very unfortunate because we had a lot of things that they're never going to know.
You know what I agree with you. And my suggestion would be, and I'll let Gummi finish it off, but my suggestion would be, back then, mom and dad were available.
Yeah.
Mom and dad were available. Like they had jobs, but at the end of the job was done. There was no checking emails. There was no checking phones.
Yeah.
There was, in other words, it was 9 to 5 or it was 8 to 9, and like dad would come home, mom would come home, and the weekends were the weekends, and there was family time. Yeah. And I think the fact that the families interacted with each other also had a lot to do with siblings being cool and mom and dad being somewhat cool, but there was still, you know, the moms and dads were still, you know, moms and dads. But I think a more involvement in family made the 80s and 90s kind of cool. Like you just talked about road trips. You talked about road trips with your parents, you know, and I remember carne asadas with my dad and my mom, you know, and I remember quinceañeras and stuff like that. And just having a family life added to the whole stuff about music and parties and like friends and stuff, because you knew you could go over to your friend's house and their family was going to take care of you, and your friends knew that they could come over to your house and your family was going to take care of them. And now you don't know what's going on because everyone's just busy and distracted. So I think you saying get rid of cell phones, I'm saying more family involvement. Now, Gummi, to end off the show, how would you get back to the fun and the creativity of the 80s and 90s?
I think it's a combination of both, really, because, when social media came around, obviously, and smartphones, it really just distracted us from everything else, right? And now, I mean, even adults, people our age and older, are on their phones. And, you know, that doesn't mean that there aren't families that, you know, are united and do things together, but I think there's less, right, which I think is what you're saying. And, you know, me growing up, you brought up a good point. Like, me growing up, I could go to any friend's house, and their parents would welcome me. You know, you could sleep there. If a friend got in an argument with their parent or something, they just like, hey, can we sleep over? And then, you know, that parent would take them in, you know. So it was as because we didn't have social media, because we didn't have all those distractions, I think it was a closer knit, you know, bond with your friends and family and so forth. And part of the fact that we didn't know that there were bad things going on, you know, because now everything's in our fingertips, right? Kind of like liberated us a little bit. You know, we were outside 2 a.m, you know, in high school, probably drinking or
Learning. You know what? We were learning from people. We weren't learning from the phones.
And we were interacting with
like
people.
there was big sisters and big brothers and older friends. Like I remember being in high school, you could hang out with the seniors, and the seniors would teach you how to be cool. Now it's like so the fact that you mentioned social media, now anyone older than you is lame because they don't know what you know. And so the fact that you're looking at your phone all the time means that, or that you can be on the phone all the time. There's no more celebrities. There's no more stars. There's no more anyone to look up to. Like everyone is their own star.
Yeah.
Like the selfie is literally the metaphor for the ruining of everybody. Like now it's about me. It's not about my big brother. It's not about my big sister. It's not about my friends that were here before me. It's not about that guy that I can learn from. Now it's just, I'm cool. I'm popular. I got all the likes. What do I need you for?
Yeah.
And I think that's also ruining things.
Yeah, and look, and going back to music real quick, my older cousins, my older brother, you know, they would listen to like Kiss and all those
and
things.
You learned about them
and
from
the
them.
60s, yeah, and I started listening to that music because of them, you know. And then like, well, I got into music myself, and so I started learning more about music and other groups and stuff. But yeah, you know, now it's just kind of like, well, I'm just gonna Google it and you know, and then see what people are talking about or whatever. But it's not the same, and I think that the lack of interaction really affects just the society in general. Okay, so let's see, Erica Contreras.
Yes.
Would you like to share your social media?
Yes, you can follow me at Erica M. Contreras on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram with Ali's Mom. And you can follow me on TikTok. I just got a brand new TikTok, and it's called Erica Travels. Follow me.
That's Erica with a C. And on Instagram, it's Ali's Mom, as in your son, Ale.
As my son Alejandro.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ali's Mom.
Ali's Mom.
Okay. Sammy, would you like to share your social media?
SammyTheHouse. Sammy the House everywhere except Twitch. I'm not on Twitch, and I'm okay with that. But TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Sammy the House. And you can listen to the show, Coffee and Magic, every morning on 107.3.
Okay, and as for the Q podcast, it's TheCuePodcast. No, that's not right? It's it's the QLTX, THECUE.
LTX.
ABCDFG.
Yeah.
LTX.
Follow the QLTX. THECUELTX.
Come visit me at the outlets. I forgot to say that.
Oh, yeah. Erica works at the outlets. I don't know why I want to say Ale. Erica works at the outlets. Go visit her. She's got really cool stuff at the outlets. She's got a lot of coupons and freebies.
Come visit me at the outlet shops at Laredo. Thank you. Bye.
Shameless plug.
Okay, so thank you very much, Erica and Sammy, for being with us.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.